Welcome back, YouTube. And for those who do not know me, hello. My name is Noah, and on my channel, we talk about death, true crime, haunted people, places, and things, spiritual reparations, and how you can fuck around and find out. If you are not subscribed here, what are we waiting on? Go ahead and subscribe and turn your notification bell on. And if you're not following me over on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook, follow me there too, please. On today's episode, we will be exploring a topic that is highly requested, and that is the creepy shit that goes on in Native American reservations. The stuff that nobody likes to talk about if you are Native. Shout out to my Native brothers and sisters because y'all got a lot going on in y'all spaces. I mean, Bigfoot, Wendigos. I'm probably saying that's wrong, but little man with the horns, or shapeshifters, or skinwalkers, or water babies. It just goes down on the res. And I'm learning that the natives do not like to talk about that. It's like we don't talk about Bruno because they truly believe, and this is why I be saying D word instead of the actual word, that if you speak about these creatures, these beings, you're literally inviting them into your space. Energy is everything, so I understand 100%, y'all. Some of the TikToks that I watch creep me the hell out, and since they creep me out, y'all gotta watch them too. Y'all gotta be creeped out because we besties at this point. So we will be watching some viral TikToks on things that happen in the res. And as always, I will be tagging the creators down below. Make sure that you are following the creators if this is the type of content that you like to see. We all work very, very hard on our content. So please, please, please give them a follow if you're over on TikTok. This first creator goes by the handle haunted_Eden, and it is telling of a time that some kids that like to drive on the res at night encountered something spooky. Just listen.
I live in Idaho, about 5 miles from a res. Growing up, we heard all sorts of stories and legends surrounding the reservation. I have to admit, I didn't really believe when it came to the things we heard. My best friend and I have always been drawn to the paranormal. Back when we were about 16 or 17, we decided we would go for drives on the res at night. I know one of the rules of the res is to never go out at night, but again, I didn't really believe in these things. So anyways, the area that we live in has a very close community, and our little town has just over 10,000 people. We basically have no crime, and everyone feels pretty safe. So driving around at night is no big deal. So we would go on these drives fairly often, with no experiences to note. But one day, we heard a story from someone at school about an abandoned schoolhouse on the other side of the res. Just passing the schoolhouse, there was a small bridge that went over a large farming canal. The story was if you drove to the bridge and turned your vehicle off, you could hear water babies. If you don't know what water babies are, there are many different stories and legends coming from Native American culture. I would advise you to go look them up. I mean, don't tell me you thought skinwalkers was the only paranormal thing around Native American culture. So anyways, we decided that was going to be our next driving destination. None of us had ever heard a water baby cry, so of course we were interested. That night, after dark, we jumped in my car and started driving out there. The closer we got to the schoolhouse, I did start to feel a little bit uneasy. We drove past the building that was supposedly the schoolhouse and stopped on the bridge. I cut the lights and killed the engine. Silence. There was no sound, except for the rushing water below the bridge. We sat there for what felt like forever, but only about 4 or 5 minutes had gone by. We heard nothing but the water, and so of course we started joking about the story being fake, and decided that it was a bust, and to just go home now. The keys were still in the ignition, so I started the car, but nothing. The dash lights lit up, but it just wouldn't turn over. I never had any issues with my car before this. I tried a couple of more times while talking with my friend, not wanting to freak her out. But after the third time of trying to start it up, I turned to her and said, I don't want to freak you out or anything, but my car won't start. Her eyes grew wide and she responded with, tell me you're joking. I wish I had been. We sat there for a minute just staring at each other, not knowing what to do. If we called my mom, there would definitely be some ass chewing for being out on the res so late, especially at night. So instead, we chose to call one of our friends that had a truck. If the battery was just dead, he could give us a jump. If not, he could tow us back to town. So we called and waited, sitting in the middle of the bridge in my dead car, frustrated from the lack of experience and car troubles. We just wanted to go home now. But that's when I saw it. It's a well-known fact that the reservation has packs of wild dogs that roam around killing livestock. And there have been a few instances of them attacking kids and even putting them in the hospital. But this was no dog. I seen all types of wolves and coyotes, but there was no way in hell this thing was either of those. It was skeletal, like a malnutrition animal, and it was walking on all fours, slow and low to the ground. It was walking along the canal towards the bridge. I smacked my friend, making her turn to look and see what I was staring at. We both stare in disbelief at this creature, slowly coming towards us. I honked the horn. At least that was still working. But this is where things got really weird. This thing stood up on two legs, arms limping at its sides. I kid you not, I fucking screamed. I had never seen anything like this in my whole life. It stood between 8 and 9 feet tall and was staring right at us. It then took a couple more steps towards us. Me and my friend were frozen. We were trapped in my car that wouldn't even start. As it slowly started walking and getting closer, that's when headlights appeared in the distance. As the lights came closer, the creature dropped back to all fours and took off for the hills, where I assume it came from. Our friend pulled up to help us, and both my creeped out friend and I kept quiet about what we just saw. He walked up to the car, and I rolled my window down. He suggested that we push the car off the bridge to the side of the road and pop the hood. So I threw it in neutral and got it to the side of the road. My friend asked me to pop the hood and try to start the car. So I did. The damn car started right up. I don't even know what caused it to not start before. But that night, I had an experience I'll never forget. I don't go out on the res anymore at night. I learned my lesson. Now I would rather not see whatever it was that night, that creature, again.
Yeah, so I've been told, and I've done research, that there are certain parts of the res that you just do not travel at night. Listen to your elders, okay? I know sometimes younger folk think they're above listening to them because they consider them old and just whatever. But baby, trust what they tell you, because what was that? Okay, if you've ever heard of a creature like this, comment down below. This next video comes from an account called ghoststoriesworld, and it is of a woman telling about the time that she visited the res and experienced something paranormal.
I never believed in ghosts until I went to visit my friend on an Indian reservation. It was a beautiful place, but I soon realized that there was something dark and eerie about it. As soon as I arrived, I felt like I was being watched. It was like there were eyes on me everywhere I went, and it was a feeling that I couldn't shake off. My friend told me that there were legends of ghosts and spirits that haunted the reservation, but I didn't take it seriously. That was until I had my own experience. One night, I was staying in a cabin alone, and I heard strange noises outside. It sounded like someone was walking around, but when I looked out the window, there was nobody there. Then I heard a voice whisper my name. It was faint, but it was definitely there. I was so scared that I locked the door and hid under the covers. But the noises didn't stop. It was like the ghost was trying to get in. The next day, I asked my friend about the ghostly legends, and she told me that there had been many sightings of a young Native American girl who had died many years ago. She was said to be looking for her lost family and was trapped on the reservation. As the days went on, I experienced more strange occurrences. Objects would move on their own, and I would hear footsteps in the cabin when I was alone. It was like the ghost was trying to communicate with me, but I didn't know what it wanted. Finally, on my last night there, I had a vivid dream. I dreamt that I was walking through the reservation, and the young Native American girl appeared in front of me. She told me that she just wanted to find her family and be at peace. When I woke up, I knew what I had to do. I went to the reservation's chief and told him about my experiences. He listened to me, and then he took me to the spot where the girl's family was buried. We said a prayer for her and her family, and I felt like the ghostly presence lifted. From then on, I never experienced any more ghostly encounters on the reservation. But I will always remember the haunting feeling that I had when I was there, and the young girl who was searching for her family in the afterlife.
Good for this user, because if you are dreaming and having paranormal experiences of a ghostly little girl who's just trying to find her family, then you did the right thing. Me, I would have probably left because I'm a scaredy cat in that way. Even though I make this content for y'all, I am very much so still human. So good for this user. She did her big one on reuniting this ghostly Native American girl with her family. Ashe. This next creator goes by dottiezombiee, and she is reciting a story that was told to her by her grandmother about some very strange creatures who showed up and crashed a party.
If you're from the res, you've most likely heard the story of the stranger or strangers that have a tail and hoofs for feet. They usually show up where there's alcohol, a bar, a dance, a house party. My grandma told me the story of two of them showing up to a dance a long time ago. It was a man and a woman. When they arrived, they came from the top of a hill that had no roads. Everyone can see their headlights coming down, and they were wondering who was coming and where were they coming from. The car they arrived in was very fancy. It was very futuristic, something that none of them have ever seen before. Everybody was having a good time. They were dancing with each other and they were dancing with other people until one person noticed that they had hooves for feet. Surprisingly, no one panicked. What they did was they started to block off the exits because they wanted to trap them in there. The strangers noticed and they were dancing with each other at the time, and they started making their way towards the only exit that wasn't blocked yet. There were people outside that were curious about the car, and they were looking at it, peeking inside of it, and even touching it. Now the man and woman, they come outside, they get in their car, and they drive off. They drive towards a bridge, and they go right underneath it, and they disappear. So a lot of people actually saw the car, but there were only a few people that touched it. And the people who touched it ended up dying not too long afterwards.
I had never heard of this folklore in the native space, so this absolutely made me gag, because I was like, wait a minute, there are people with hoof feet that like to party? Stress me out. This next creator goes under the handle of jodyleighleigh, and she is just giving y'all a piece of advice if you live or visit the res.
Rule of res life: always close your windows when it's starting to get nighttime. You always close your windows.
I thought that was just a rule of thumb if you believe in the paranormal, but now I know where it comes from. Because I always close my windows, my curtains, everything before I go to bed. Because who you about to be peeping on? Not me. This next creator goes under the handle pale.color.bison.horns, and she is telling a time that her brother and some friends were partying late at night and was about to do some ratchet ass shit and almost fucked around and found out.
Scary story warning.
Okay, so I got one. I got several. I'm going to tell you this one. So, when my brother was younger, he's about 40 now. When he was, I want to say, closer to 30, Him and a bunch of his friends, aka cousins, were all out on the res, driving around, drinking, hopping from party to party. And there's all these back roads in the town that we live in called Brockett. You can like look it up on a map. There's all these back roads that you can travel down. They're all, of course, right, rezzed out roads, gravel and whatnot. And so he was driving in one of those back roads. There's this place called the Dip that they were traveling to. And when they were traveling, they were just like blasting music, swerving all over the roads. Next thing, one of the guys leans out the window and he's like, "Hey, there's a dog." And so a little bit further up the road, about half a kilometer, there was a dog just kind of trotting along the way, just minding its own business. And so one of them, nobody will admit who it was. One of them leaned out the window with a bottle to try throw the bottle at the dog. And when they're about to do that, the dog stopped and turned around, and it had a human face. And it just stared at them. And whoever was driving, I think it was my cousin Jay, he just like hit the brakes, and there's a big cloud of dust, and they all just sat there looking at this dog with a face. And so they didn't know what to do, and the dog started walking towards them and started running towards them, and they just like, the driver just like flipped the vehicle around and they just took off the other way, which of course is definitely something anyone would do in the middle of the night if you come across a dog with a human face. So, you know, that dog you hear about a lot from different reservations, different tribes and whatnot. So it's more of a warning, and generally seen by people who are, you know, not really up to any good. But that's the one story that I have right now. I also have tons more from just creepy ass res stories. So I hope you liked it.
See, this is why I be telling y'all to do good, be good. Because why would you ever try to throw the bottle? And of course, everybody wants to deny that it was them. But somebody tried to throw that bottle at this skinwalker. And they was finna fuck around and find out. I guess that was just warning shots. This next creator goes by the handle of jburnett25, and she is telling a story about the time she heard a tap on her window. This stressed me out.
Okay, let's try this again. I have a story about this, but I'm not sure if it was a skinwalker or not. So my mom's a bleep dealer, and sometimes her friends would come over and like knock on the window and be like, "Hey, you know." Anyways, we live in a 4-bedroom house. 2 of the bedrooms were conjoined together, so there's 2 windows in that room, and I lived in the corner of the house while my mom lived on the other side of the room. I remember this one night, it was 4 a.m. I heard a knock on the window, and I thought it was my mom because my mom was at home. So I said, "Mom, is that you?" No one answered, so I thought it was her friends or something, but I texted her and I said, "Mom, are you at my window?" I swear, when she texted me, it scared me that I froze. She said, "That is not me. I am not home. Do not answer them." I was so scared. I ran down the hallway and I told my sister what happened. And the next thing you knew, there was poundings all around the house on the outside. So we stood in the hallway where nobody could see us because we felt like somebody was peeking through the window. And then my mom was like, "Okay, I'm coming home." And she was on foot. So she ran home and we stayed in the hallway until then. So to this day, I do not know who or what was outside my house.
Rule of thumb, if you're native or not, if you hear tapping on your window in the middle of the night, please do not look out the window. Do not. I'm learning where all of these rules come from, and I'm loving it because they done been through some things, okay? So do not ever look out your window if you hear tapping, knocking, whatever. This next clip comes from an account called ahintoftruth, and they're interviewing a native elder, and he is basically just explaining some of the beings that they have to deal with and how they work. Just listen to what this man says.
The teachings about demons and the evil one and how they are able to operate among us as the five-fingered being. The evil one is the actual person or being that is in charge of all of the other evil beings, and those are the demons. And the evil one actually has his origin as known as the Black Yei or che.jim, and his primary goal is to be an obstacle, to be an opposition or the adversary to the things that are good, that are made good by the holy people and given to us. And he does everything in his power to make sure that he has some way perverted their effort. And the demons are the ones that help him. And they are not physical in any way beings, but they do have influence over so many of the things that are around us in a physical setting. And they can do things that are of the supernatural nature and actually have an effect on us as the five-fingered being. And the demons actually have about 4 different names that we apply to them as the way that they have power. And the witchcraft is one of them. And atakash is another one. Ante is another one. There's a 4th one that I don't like to give a name to, and that is more of a physical type of an attack on the human body. If you are weak in a spiritual way, or an emotional way, or in a mental way, when those are combined, they can attack you. And it is that what they can inflict upon you is actually physical illnesses, and that can deteriorate your body to where it's almost nothing. And so those are the type of powers that they actually have. But in modern times, and that the influence and that the evil ones have, they take any type of form. They come in all sizes and shapes, either as physical five-fingered beings or even material type of things to distract us. And that is the main thing, is the adversary is always making the effort to distract us from the things that are right and good. And so it is that we have, in our own traditional teaching, what we have is the skinwalker. The skinwalkers are actually, they are actual beings or people, the five-fingered being that have great knowledge of the dark side. And they are able to do the flat line and to actually be between here and the next world and in spirit form and able to do things to get around and do the evil that they can do. And that is very evil in so many ways. And so those are the ones that we call Yenans Doshi. And I don't like to talk about it, and the Net don't like to talk about it. It is that they have control over so many things in the world today. The demonic influence on that is available, or we have. And it is always for distraction. And one of the main things that they attack in our present world and among our Dene is the family. The families are also always under some type of influence by the evil one and demonic forces. And so we have their efforts to make our families not stable, not united. And it is that they have that influence. And so it destroys the family.
Listen, I absolutely believe him. And it's not just for their darker entities. I believe this is what these entities are for everyone. Listen to your elders. This next video comes from an account called Alaskasia. I'm sorry if I said it wrong, sis, but she is telling a tale about a mythical creature that her tribe believes in.
Go outside and whistle. I dare you.
When I saw this, I had to respond. So I'm from the Tlingit tribe, Southeast Alaska. We have a legend similar to skinwalkers or Staganis, we call it kushtaka. And it will ruin otters for you. Ruin them. Our elders would warn us of the kushtaka, a creature that mainly takes the form as an otter, but when it is trying to trick you, it will take the form of someone you know and trust Its eyes are said to be pitch black. You can see how dark my eyes are and how confusing that would be for a little child. Anyways, what they will do is they will take the form of someone you know and try to lure you towards the ocean or into the woods to get you alone so that it can steal your soul and essentially condemn you to a soulless eternity like one of them. It is said that when you see an otter on land, it's a Kushta trying to get you. And the noise that they make, a whistle.
Absolutely ruined otters for me. I love otters. They're so cute. I want a baby one as a pet. But it's so crazy just listening to all of these stories about these different creatures. The natives go through the most, okay? They are told the most, and they have some of the spookiest beings that I've ever heard of. This next creator goes by the handle of che.jim, and I absolutely love his content. I've been following him for so long, and he just gives different story times and things about what happens on the res. Please follow this man. If you like spooky, scary, and sometimes funny content, it is just A1. But he is telling why you should always close the window and not engage.
The video I'm about to show you is freaking out the internet. Take a look at this deer and watch what it does. People believe that this deer was shape-shifting and that it might be a Wendigo. Wendigos are cannibalistic shapeshifters from Algonquin folklore. Could this be a Wendigo about to shapeshift into its true form? And it caught the camera and it's like, oh shit, can't do it now. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Also, follow me on YouTube, link in bio for more. Just do it.
I grew up in the Navajo Nation, on a rural homestead outside Sheep Springs. At night, the place was so peaceful. You heard nothing but the wind blowing in from the empty expanse of desert to the east. I remember my cousin had a broke-down Ford truck in the old corral, and I used to enjoy spending nights laying in the bed, watching millions of stars move through the sky. But it all changed one night. My grandmother was sleeping in our trailer watching us for the night. Our mom was gone at work and I was outside with my sister playing right after sunset, when the sky starts to lose its color and the world turns blue. We were kicking around an old soccer ball and got further and further from our trailer. I could still see the single dim light on the porch, but knew we needed to make our way back as the sky grew darker and the wind started to pick up. My sister ran to grab the ball that had rolled just outside the gate to our property. I was about to tell her we needed to turn around when I saw her freeze. She stood up slowly and asked me if I heard that too. Just as I opened my mouth to say no, I heard a drum beat in the distance. It started slowly but turned into a heavy, methodical beat. My sister took a step in that direction as she listened. No one lives out there. We don't have neighbors for miles. It's a no man's land. I called out to her and told her we should turn around. but she took a few more steps past the gate. She told me she was just wondering what it could be. The drumbeat became steadier and louder. With the last fading light of the sun gone, a chill swept over me and I had an overwhelming feeling of dread creep into my soul. The wind began to whip up, sending dust and sagebrush flying. I caught up to my sister and we stared into the blackness of the empty landscape, listening to this eerie beat. Then out of nowhere a hand grabbed me. We screamed, but as we spun around, we realized it was our grandmother. She whispered angrily in Navajo for us to get back inside as she slammed the gate shut. Still in shock, I turned toward the house when she hissed at us. "Run." My sister and I ran for our lives and our grandmother somehow kept up with us. We jumped through the front door and she slammed it shut, locking the deadbolt and going around to lock every window and pulling the curtains shut. She turned out all the lights, pulled up some blankets and pillows and made us sleep on the floor. The wind howled and beat on the tin roof, but I could still hear the booming in the distance, growing faster. She sat down in an old chair and told us to go to sleep. I was so scared I didn't even want to talk, but my sister asked her what was going on. Grandmother was quiet for a minute, but then leaned down toward us and in a whisper that I'll never forget, said, "There is evil in the darkness. What you hear is the dance of the dead."
Something's going on these reses. Something that is beyond belief and that we will never understand. That is all for today. And if you would like me to cover any topic or even do any part 2s to any of my videos, please comment down below. And remember to follow the creators if you're over on TikTok and you love this type of content. And until next time, y'all do good, be good, and stay safe.